All right, hi Founder fans. Jason here. Welcome to Trivia. It's Friday and it's trivia, and I'm wearing a t-shirt because, I don't know, it's trivia. I feel like we should be a little more relaxed here this week. Maybe it's just me, although usually, now that I think about it, I would have gotten dressed up when I left the house for trivia. Either way, thank you for coming to Founder of the Day. For those of you who are new here, we're going to play a little trivia. That's what we do. Big shout out to Liberty & Co., our sponsor, who's going to help us out with the prizes. I'll get to them a little bit later. Thank you guys so much for watching. As people are coming in, do a little bit of an explanation. I have written 7 questions myself, and we take 7 other questions from, well, another source. And I've had a few trivias that we've chosen from over time. Right now, we are going to be choosing... I have a little confession to make. I was very excited to have ordered some more trivia for us, and I ordered this Professor Noggin's American Revolution trivia card game number 17, ages 7 and up. So the questions probably aren't super hard. And then I literally walked into my bedroom, looked up there in the background of every video I make, and saw this. Well, what do you know? It's Professor Noggin's American Revolution card game, ages 7 and up. Now, they do look a little bit different, and I'm not entirely sure why. So, what we're going to do now, excuse me, got a little hair in my mouth. What we're going to do now is we are going to use the new cards. We'll do this for a few weeks, and then we'll go back. What I assume we'll do is we'll do some of these cards this week, then we'll go back to the, like, History Happened Here one, and then we'll go to that, blah-de-blah-de-blah, and it should be fine, just fine. Anyway, seeing people roll in, thank you for coming. So, we're going to get started with trivia. What are we possibly waiting for? Oh, this is what we're waiting for. I am a little dark now, and that's because I do have to go to YouTube to get started. And I will go over here and pretend I'm prepared better. Oh, and here are my questions. And we're ready to go. So thank you for playing. If you're here, let me know you're here. I know there are several people who like to watch and don't actually participate, which is fine. You're just here for the information. That's a lot of fun. As for the questions I wrote up this week, they are regarding my, mostly regarding articles I've written this week. Actually, I made most of them multiple choice this week. But the last 2 have a lot of answers. So you're never out of it. If you're playing, you are never, ever, ever out of it. We are going to get started. Just people go, hi, Ashley. This is the first time you've seen me without a plaid shirt. You know, it's so funny you say that. Misfit gave me some trouble in a comment the other day. Hi, Misfit. Thanks. Misfit was giving me a trouble the other day in a comment about how I'm always wearing the same shirt. Now, I have several shirts that I try and rotate as best I can. It just happens that I shot a video early on Wednesday and then was interviewed on my buddy's show and then shot a live video Wednesday night and didn't think to change my shirt throughout that one Wednesday, and therefore I was very much wearing the same outfit a lot this week, so I apologize. I also wanted to show off, this is the Washington flag of the Liberty & Co. Shirts. Like I said, Liberty & Co., they come and go down here, but I love their products. I'm so excited Tyson agreed to sponsor me. I mean, this is their Live Free and Die mug. I love everything they have to offer. And in these plaid shirts you guys like so much, I usually have a t-shirt on underneath. And now that I'm seeing myself, I'm very uncomfortable without a collar. Because I never go out in public without a collar on. But anyway, now that you guys are here and commenting, let's do some trivia, shall we? Let's do that trivia. So, we are going to start, let's start with these cards, because I'm not really sure what's going to happen with these. But we're going to see. So, I'm going to flip it over. I think the answers are on the bottom. I know the answers to the questions I made up, but I do not know the answers to the questions I'm about to ask you. Oh, interesting. Oh, there's a lot of questions on here. Okay, we're going to do a quick mind change. Welcome everyone who's coming in. We're just figuring out these new cards I got, and it turns out that there are 3 questions. Choose a card from the player of your choice. Oh, there's like dice and stuff. There are 4 questions on each card. 2 are under the label student, and 2 are under the label scholar. So we were going to ask 7 questions. Let's make it 8, and we'll just pull 1 card aside, 2 cards aside, and we'll do these 8 questions with the 7 I've written. So it's 15. Who's ready? You're ready. We're ready. Okay. Clearly I'm ready. and super uncomfortable because I keep seeing myself in the monitor here without a collar on, and it's very distracting, if I'm being honest. I feel really exposed, guys. Anyhoozle, question number 1. British troops tried to end support for the war in the South by burning the homes and crops of patriots. Did this work? I'm gonna move my monitor a little closer. I did forget to change my latency, which means that I am a little further ahead of you guys than I like to be. I like to keep my latency up usually because then everything's clear and moving smoothly. But on these, I forgot with these Q&As, it's easier if I turn down the latency. So I do apologize. I am stalling for time to give you time. Just to reiterate the question, or repeat the question. British troops tried to end support for the war in the South by burning the homes and crops of patriots. Did this work? Seems like a pretty yes or no question. Also, the answers are at the bottom and I don't want to see them myself, so I'm like covering up with the other card. Okay, Ashley and Misfit. Looks like you guys are the only ones playing right off the bat. Now, anyone could join at any time, but you two have the opportunity to get a nice head start. And I'm going to tell you, you are getting a nice head start because no, it actually increased support for the war. Like, come on, king and country, why are you burning things down? So, let's go over to the big board, which I do believe I forgot to put up or attach here. It's Christmas season 2019 has been challenging. I'm sure you guys realize that. And very distracting. I'm pulling up the trivia scores. Let's see. Is it still hooked up from last week? Let's cross our fingers. It is. Huzzah. Let's open it up wide. Can you guys even see that? Doesn't look so great. Maybe we can zoom in to 150%. I think that's a lot better now, isn't it? So who's here? Ashley. We're gonna erase here. Misfit, here you go. You're back. Ashley with 18, following up a record-breaking week last week. 2019, did I say 2019? 2019, Tina? You get it. You're alive right now. Okay, we got Ashley with 1 and Misfit with 1. It's a dead heat. Bring me back. Tina, thank you so much for coming. Let's answer some of these questions. So I'm going to go over to my personal questions now. We'll rotate back and forth. That's a good amount. This is some good jolly fun, I think. Speaking of Christmas season, jolly fun. Can I keep the 18? No, Ashley, you may not. S, yeah, I'm glad you're here watching it live. It's a really abbreviated handle you got, but I like it. Not only can you watch it live, but you can participate. So let's hear what your answers are. We've only had one question. There's plenty of time to catch up, especially if you either read my articles this week or watched the live video on Wednesday where I wrapped everything up, because we're about to have a multiple choice question I wrote based on one of the articles I wrote just this past week. Well, technically last week. The Battle of Fort St. George took place at the Manor of St. George. At the time, who owned this property? Was it A, Nathaniel Woodhull, B, St. George Tucker, C, William Cushing, or D, William Smith? Yes, these are all real names, by the way. So again, when the Battle of Fort St. George took place it's a lot of St. George. When the Battle of Fort St. George took place at the Manor of St. George on Long Island, who owned the property at the time? Was it A, Nathaniel Woodhull, B, St. George Tucker, C, William Cushing, or D, William Smith? We got some answers coming in. Chip Davis, I believe this is the first time I remember you answering. Thank you for coming. Thank you for playing. I'm really glad to have you. Okay, so we have a few answers. Misfit, I know you're playing, so I'm going to give it another second to see your answers come through. Again, I'm a little bit ahead of you guys, and I'm getting really good at stalling, although I am very uncomfortable without my collar on. This will be the last time I take a risk of this nature. Tina coming in with an answer. All right, I'm trying to hang out for you, Misfit. I'm trying to hold on, but I can't keep everyone waiting forever. So, I know I'm a little ahead, so I'm going to say the answer, and if it comes in right about then, I'll assume you did it ahead of time. Either way, we're all having fun here. The answer is, the correct answer, who owned the Manor of St. George, was William Smith, D. So we have, it looks like Ashley and Tina. Now, William Cushing is a little bit of a tricky, it's a good answer because I did talk about William Cushing this week and I was being a little sneaky with the two Williams. I apologize. I didn't want to make them too easy. And I do see Misfit coming in. I do believe I mentioned the shirt before. And so I will give you credit, Misfit. And for those of you new here, I am pretty generous. I like to think with giving credit. So let's pop up over to the big board. And pop it up over here for myself. And we have, who said D? We have Ashley coming in strong. That's 2 points. Misfit said Will Smith. Yeah, at the last second. Right, exactly. Tina with the first answer. Tina, let's give you a 1 point for the D. Ashley, Chip and S, that's okay. I know, it was very confusing. I threw you off the scent. I assure you there will be questions that are not so tricky in the future, but maybe not the next one, but in the future. So let's go on to question number 2 as far as on our trivia cards as far as student is concerned. So it is a little bit, I'm doing a Misfit, don't worry, it's too late. Question number 2 in the student or easier section, I suppose. The Battle of Cowpens was a disaster for the British. In which colony did this battle occur? The Battle of Cowpens was a disaster for the British. In which colony did this battle occur? In what colony did the Battle of Cowpens occur? And so I don't know the answers to these questions. I mean, I know the answers to some of them, but I have not seen them beforehand, the ones off the cards. I do this, for those of you new here, because I like to play along at least a little bit. I spent a good amount of time writing these questions, so I figure I'll have some fun with these. I do want to note that I believe this question is ishy because I believe the Battle of Cowpens was after the Declaration of Independence, so technically it didn't occur in any colony. It occurred in a state. Although it seems to be asking the question from the perspective of the British, so they would have still considered it a colony. Answers rolling in. Give you one more second. Take a quick sip of water. Again, for those of you new here, I talk a lot on this channel. Oh, I need to take a sip. Oh, Misfit, trying to get those bonus points with the using the what is it called? The abbreviation of the state and the state. Interesting, very interesting. And S coming in strong. People know I like bonus points on this one. Well, unfortunately, with their cards, I usually don't give bonus points unless the question is terrible. Yeah. S coming in. I said in a previous video, he was bedridden. Oh, I'm down a little bit. 80% of Tarleton's forces were defeated. Yes, and I do believe it was Cowpens that Tarleton ran away from William Washington at. They fought hand to hand, and then William Washington had got shot in the foot and couldn't keep up while he ran away. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm not sure who was bedridden when it happened. Henry Morgan, maybe. You think, Ashley, that's very nice of you. And I'm stalling. I've been stalling. I'm stalling too long. Someone left. So we're going to go and say, yeah, South Carolina. Everyone seems to have gotten it right. That answered South Carolina. Yeah. Had to double check just to be safe. So let's pop up the board. Again, I got to come up with a better system than this. I know that. Again, I keep saying, for those of you new here, those of you who are used to me, you understand that I spend a lot of time researching and writing articles all week long and not enough time focusing on the channel, which I probably should. And when I do focus on it, I'm trying to figure out how to use the camera and microphone better, and I'm not good at it. I believe you're right. My mind's escaping me a little bit right now. I was supposed to have my coffee an hour ago, but I'm just having it now. Let's see. Who answered? We got, Chip. Welcome to the game. You got one. S. Love it. Love your handle, dude. Yeah, you said so. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. S said a ton of answers. Ashley with the lead. Although it looks like S is coming in hot. I'll be honest. Misfit got South Carolina also with the lead, kind of. Tina, no answers. Okay, well, we'll move right on. We're going to move right along. No more stalling. We're going to keep trudging along with one of my questions that I came up with my mind. Question technically 4. When the men who participated in Shays' rebellion attacked the Springfield Armory, who was in charge of defending that facility? Was it A, John Hancock, B, William Shepard, C, William Cushing, or D, Paul Revere? So, when Shays' Rebellion broke out, they attacked the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts. Who was in charge of defending the Springfield Armory? Again, it was A, John Hancock, B, William Shepard, C, William Cushing, or D, Paul Revere. This one I know because I wrote it. Again, Shays' Rebellion, bunch of soldiers came home from the Revolutionary War, and the Massachusetts government, the elites over in Boston, said, well, no more legal tender. We're not going to give you any gold, but we're only going to accept payment in gold for the debts you accrued while you were fighting for America. They were not happy about that, as you might expect. Seeing a lot of answers coming in. Misfit, got an answer. Chip, S. Chip. Oh. What? Okay, so there's Chip Davis and a Chip Brown. Well, welcome, gentlemen. I am going to have to double back and make sure I give you, as people here will note, people who've been here before will know I have a tendency to count wrong. So let's see. It was Chip Brown who got South Carolina right. I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay. And now everyone seems to have gotten this question right. It was William Shepard. Again, tried to trick you with Cushing there. Great. This is fun. Everyone's doing really good. We're going to pop back up to the big board as quickly and efficiently as we can. And we are going to give Ashley, let's see, Misfit answered first. You got 4. And Ashley answered second with 4. We have, I'm going to add Chip Brown. You've got 2. Wait, you guys are confusing me. Okay. This one's Chip Brown because you had answered before. Don't worry, I'll figure it out, guys. And you have 2. And this is Chip Davis. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Davis, I believe this was the first answer you gave, and it is correct. So you get 1. And then we have S moving up to 2 points. And I got that right. All 5 people got a point. Wait. And obviously that is not how that's supposed to happen. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, 34 points. No, Ashley. After the record Ashley set a record last week with 18 points, so we will not be giving away 34 points to you, Ashley, despite how much we love having you here. Okay, let's back to the cards. Back to the cards. Now, it might get a little harder because we're going from student to scholar now. So, let's rock. Oh, it looks like it gives you options. So, what general's brilliant strategies helped defeat the British in the South? Alexander Hamilton, Charles Lee, or Nathaniel Greene? Which general's brilliant strategies helped defeat the British in the South? Alexander Hamilton, Charles Lee, or Nathaniel Greene? Take a little sip of my coffee, wake up a little bit. Not that I don't have energy. As soon as I start talking, I'm like, I get the energy I need. I always forget beforehand. Again, a lot of questions about the South in this first card. Oh, and there's a name. Oh, okay. So this card actually says the war in the South. So that's a hint from all of these questions. All right, seeing a few answers rolling in, holding out, giving people the opportunity to get their answers in. Looks like Tina with A. Is that A for Alexander Hamilton, or are you way behind the rest of us? I'm not entirely sure. Uh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you did get it first. I will say, as you've seen, I give points to everyone. I should have made that clear from the beginning. There was a time where we were just going first come first serve, but we've learned that certain people's computers operate slower than others, and that's just not fair. And I don't want to ruin the fun for people. And it's a lot more fun when it's a friendly competition, right? So I believe, and again, I don't know these answers, but yeah, it's got to be Nathaniel Greene. Nathaniel Greene, of course it is. He's one of the most important American founders, arguably after George Washington, arguably the most important general, because he did win the southern half of the war, and after we won the South, I supposed to be objective, after the Americans won the South, then they essentially won the war. Big board time. Let's pop on up. So we've got, I'm going to try and just stay in order with everyone. S coming in first. Okay, that's right, you did. So that's 3. 2 plus 1. Chip Davis. Don't want to skip anyone. C. Okay. Nathaniel Greene was the third one. So yes, I'm counting it. Ashley. Nathaniel Greene. 5. 4 plus 1. Chip Brown. 2 plus 1 is 3. Right? Because we only did Chip Davis. Oh, you guys. I love it. Misfit. Ooh. Up here with 5. Really coming in hot today. Tina, sorry, when you say A, I think you're referencing Alexander Hamilton, the first one, and no, I apologize. Hamilton had a huge role in helping Washington win the war, but Hamilton actually was not a general during the American Revolutionary War. He does achieve that position when John Adams is president, but, sorry. And I love that 2 new people showed up with I love that 2 chips showed up at the same time, but you were both kind enough to include your last name. I really appreciate that. Genuinely. Oh, and now we're going back to my questions. Excuse me very much. My question is... Okay. What was the result of the court case of Commonwealth v. Jennison? What was the result of the court case of Commonwealth v. Jennison? Did it A, outlaw alcohol in Virginia, B, outlaw slavery in New Jersey, C, outlaw slavery in Massachusetts, or D, outlaw playhouses in New York? Once again, there was a court case at the time styled Commonwealth v. Jennison. The result of this case, did it A, outlaw alcohol in Virginia, B, outlaw slavery in New Jersey, C, outlaw slavery in Massachusetts, or D, outlaw playhouses in New York? Excuse me. People coming through. Oh, keep an answer. That's very nice of you, Misfit. I'm sure that's why you're trying to win. It's just to be nice to Ashley. Okay, answers coming in. So right, that's one of the reasons I started doing multiple choice this week, is so you can guess. Because we had a few questions over the past few weeks where there was 0 correct answers. Because if you know what I do, I really like to read and learn about obscure people. So I could ask super obscure questions that I'd like to be asked, and everyone would get a 0. That's okay, Tina. Just guess. No. This is all fun, and the whole point is to learn more. From my perspective, part of learning about things is to test yourself a little bit, and getting things wrong is good. That's how you remember. I'm gonna give you one more sip of coffee, Tina, before I start giving away the answers. And the answer is C. That's my drum solo. C. It outlawed slavery in Massachusetts. And again, we got a really close matchup this time. Popping up the board. And we are going to... We've got Ashley coming in hot. 5 plus 1 is 6. We have Chip Davis also coming in hot. 2 plus 3. Okay, see, this is how I can't do math. I can't continue to host this show. New math. Chip Brown with 4. S. You could guess, man. I made a multiple choice. Misfit going with the full answer. daring. I like it. And that is that. Technically, I won last week. That's true. I should note for people playing for the first time, Ashley cannot win this week because we have set a rule that Matt, I don't know if Matt's here, Matt was kind of hanging back last week. We had made a rule that you can't win twice in a row because that's not any fun. But the channel was also very small then, and now there's a lot more people playing. And Ashley is also very good. Last week, Matt was hanging back, letting someone else take the lead, I think, because I apologize, Matt. We called you the villain a few times, and it was all in good fun, I assure you. Technically, okay, I just really love the community we have here. I learned a lot, and yes, winning is about the new. I'm glad you bring that up, Misfit. I'm actually considering doing a live video. Side note, I'm actually going to do a test this Sunday at 12 p.m., 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what to call it yet, but basically, I kind of like a Q&A session where I want you guys to bring me founders' names that you want to know more about, any founder you'd like to learn about, any name you think you know a lot about but want to see if you really do. Sunday at noon. I'm thinking about going live for like an hour and just kind of like an Ask Me Anything, but about the American Revolution. Yeah, Tina, essentially that's what I've been doing. On Wednesdays I give you a lecture and this is the test. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for saying this, everyone. That's really nice of you. It makes me. I put a good amount of work into this, so the fact that you guys are appreciating it makes me. I'm all warm, and again, I need a collar on. Never mind. I'm not gonna. I was gonna say I'm warm in my heart, but now it's like, no, I'm not. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm chilly. So back to the cards. Question number 4 on this card about the South. Francis Marion led a successful guerrilla campaign against the British from the swamps of South Carolina. What was his nickname? What was Francis Marion's nickname? Or as I titled it in the article I wrote 2 years ago, what was Francis Marion's alter ego? Chip, do I have any favorite books about the American Revolution? Boy, howdy. A whole slew of them. Which one? I'll tell you what, Mr. Davis. Is there a particular subject you're interested in? Would be the right question, because that'll help me choose a favorite. Right off the bat, I will say, there's this book. I talk about it all the time. And if you're new here, which I need to stop saying, for those of you who are new Founder fans, I went through a period in my life where I threw out all my dust covers because I was an idiot in my mid-20s. So this actually has a really fun cover with someone putting on a corset. It's called Unlikely Allies, How a Merchant, a Playwright, and a Spy Saved the American Revolution. It's about Francis Dean, who went to Paris before Benjamin Franklin, and was the first one sending soldiers over here, including the Marquis de Lafayette and Baron von Steuben, although Franklin was there by the time von Steuben came over. And he met with a playwright and a cross-dresser, and they essentially got France to support the American Revolution. It's an amazing book. And others. We'll continue with this, because everyone's put their answers in. I'm so sorry. How am I not supposed to answer that question? Although, you could have given me an answer, Chip, if you're going to ask me questions and distract me. Anywhoozle. Yes, it's got to be the Swamp Fox, right? It's the Swamp Fox. Marion Francis, a.k.a. the Swamp Fox. I'm pulling it up here, and we have Misfit coming in hot today, dude. Yeah, Chip, I have a bunch of other books. Wait, I can't talk and count at the same time we've learned. Misfit, going up to 7. Chip Brown, going up to 5. Ashley, very slowly going up to 7. I'm just giving you trouble, Ashley, no big deal. And S, going up to 4. And Chip with a big thank you. You're welcome. I have a lot of books, actually. As I said, I'm going to do this thing on Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I'd like for you guys to bring me a founder. If you'd like for me to talk more about some of the books, most of my favorites are behind me. The majority of them are downstairs. I wanted this to look nice for the videos more than like actually store my books. We're going to move over here. You're going to buy that book. Oh, it's one of my top 3. Unlikely Allies by Joel Richard Paul, I believe is his name. Joel Richard Paul, who really hasn't written much else. And it's about Silas Deane, who is one of the top, most underappreciated American founders. Like, Ben Franklin goes to France and gets all the credit for bringing France into the war, but Franklin had sent Deane a year and a half earlier. Deane read the Declaration of Independence that Franklin signed while Deane was in France, already setting the table for Franklin to essentially come over and, I don't want to say take all the credit. Obviously, Ben Franklin deserves a lot of credit, but Deane deserves some. He deserves to have you know his name. So anyway, next question. We are going to pull up the questions I wrote, and we are on, John Gibson wrote about last week. So, John Gibson was the longtime secretary of which territory? A, Indiana Territory. B, Louisiana Territory. C, Missouri Territory. Or D, Alabama Territory. Now again, secretary wasn't just a receptionist back then, as I said in the video on Wednesday. Secretary was a very important position, kind of like Secretary of State today, that you might think about for a state or the feds, but it was almost more important back then because there was not a lot of people around. In fact, John Gibson had served as interim governor on several occasions. And again, the answers were A, Indiana Territory, B, Louisiana Territory, C, Missouri Territory, and D, Alabama Territory. Got a bunch of... Okay, we go get my plaid. It's like a thing now. I've been wearing it for years. Like, it's not a thing now. It's always been a thing. But thank you so much. Would definitely like to see, I'm stalling right now, so everyone get their answers in. Would definitely like to see you do a video about Christopher Green. He's not really spoken about much. I never knew about until I was after school. Christopher Green of the, of Rhode Island. He had the, I believe it's Christopher Green, the Rhode Island, I forget what his position was. He was I think he was a colonel of one of the first integrated units or regiments in the Continental Army. I'll do a video on Chris Green. Yeah, for sure. And the answer is, John Gibson was the longtime secretary of which territory? A, Indiana Territory. And everyone who answered seems to have gotten it right. You know, you guys should guess, especially if everyone before you has guessed the same answer. It's probably a good idea to at least keep up. It's called strategy. You don't have to know the right answers. You just have to strategize. Was that by George Bush? Did I just sound like George Bush for a second there? Strategize. The strategerium. I can't do impressions. Except Axl Rose, but I have to be too loud to do it. I have people sleeping in this house. I can't. Where am I? I'm having too much fun. You guys are supposed to have fun. I'm supposed to be working. Let's see. We got typo. Okay, yeah, I see. Ashley, getting Indiana. Huzzah. 8. S. Keeping up. And like I said, at the end of this, stick around because at the end there are questions with multiple correct answers. CB, getting an A and going up to 6. And Misfit. Ooh, keeping it close. This is fun. I'm having a terrific time. I don't know how you guys feel. This is fun. Chip Davis, I've just started reading about it. I read Derek Beck's Igniting the American Revolution 1773 to 75, and now I'm reading Beck's follow-up, The War Before Independence. Oh, okay. The war from Lexington and Concord until July 1775. So mostly just sitting around Boston is essentially what you're reading about, and probably a lot about the Continental Congress. So I'll think about it for a second. We'll read through a question, Chip, and then when I'm stalling next time. So we are on card number 2. Oof! Speaking of which, this card says, The War Starts. So that is what all of these questions will probably be about. Wait. Oh, this one has 6 questions on it, because the last one had okay. It was so there is a game, there's a die for these cards, and this one's you can choose someone else's card kind of thing. So, I guess we have 6 more card questions and not 4. Great. This is in the student pile, so this should be a little bit easier. Crossing my fingers and whatever. What year did... All right, this is going to be a bonus question. What year did the fighting of the American Revolution... let me speak clearly for a second here. What year did the fighting during the American Revolution begin? No, you know what? It gives me 3 answers here. I'm going to let you guys answer this. What year did the fighting of the American Revolution begin? In other words, what year did Lexington and Concord take place? Because if I give you the 3 answers they have on the card, it's like not even worth asking. I would think you're all going to get it right. So what year did the actual violence, the war, begin? Because technically there was earlier violence that could be included. Seeing answers coming in. Letting them roll in, giving everyone a second to get their guesses out. Tina, there you are. Thanks for coming back. We got special peppermint coffee going on in this household right now. Because I don't know if you know this, but it's the holiday season. At least in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, in 3, 2, 1... And yeah, I didn't look at the answers, but I'm pretty sure the answer, I mean, it's Misfit getting it in right before I answered. Well played, my friend. Yes, the answer is 1775. And I do want to note that the card says 1765, 1775, or 1783. 1783 is a little confusing because it's kind of when the war ended, essentially, is when the treaty was signed. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's when the Continental Army was disbanded. 1765 isn't as confusing. Never mind. I don't even want to get into it. Yes. Got it right. Let's get it up here. Excuse me. We have CB over here. 6-7. Ashley maintaining that lead. CD going up to 4. Still in it. We got a lot of points to dish out. And they're all going to come at once at the end. Tina, absolutely. Getting you up to 2. Again, you're not out of it either. And Misfit. Oh, really getting in there. Trying to, well, I'm gonna, okay, typo, 19th. Way to save your behind, Misfit. Give me the 19th. You don't get an extra bonus point for that. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Because I'm sure many people knew that on this channel. But, sweet. When it started? Well, Ashley, we'll see. Or I guess we won't see. But either way. You did know the answer. So I'm glad I didn't give you the options. Now, as far as my questions go, I had written 7 to go with these 7. But now there's 2 extra. You know what? I'll just do those at the end. So, where are my questions? Excuse me. Now, last week, I was given the recommendation to write about and discuss Nancy Ward. Thank you, whoever brought that up. Misfit, did you say? I think you said it was Lisa. I think it was historical, right? Came up with it. But if not, if it was you or Ashley, then whoever said it, great idea. Because I wrote about Nancy Ward last week. And I'm kind of embarrassed I hadn't discussed her earlier. Now, here's the question about Nancy Ward. Nancy Ward was the beloved woman in which Native American nation? Was it A, Comanche, B, Creek, C, Cherokee, or D, Choctaw? Again, what Native American nation was Nancy Ward part of? Was it A, Comanche, B, Creek, C, Cherokee, or D, Choctaw? Let you guys pile in these answers. I'll think of another book. If you're reading about the early war, man, you know, I read a lot of biographies apparently, and a lot about the Constitution too. So I'm having trouble in my mind very quickly placing a book specifically about the early war. A lot of answers coming in. Still kind of sitting on it. Let's read through it one more time to give everyone a chance to answer. Nancy Ward was the, quote, beloved woman in which Native American nation? Was it A, Comanche, B, Creek, C, Cherokee, or D, Choctaw? And you see how I chose all Native American nations with the letter C at the beginning? I found myself very clever doing that. Okay, Chip. Well, in that case, I am gonna do a drum roll. No, I'm not gonna do the drum roll. Nancy Ward was the beloved woman in the C, Cherokee Nation. So we're gonna pop that big board right on back up, and we're gonna hand out some points here. Ashley, Cherokee, got it, hitting 10. CD, sorry, not Comanche. I'm distracting you with the books. That's on me, but still, unfortunately, that's okay though. We all get them wrong sometimes. These questions aren't quite as hard as some of the other trivia cards we've used in the past, so a lot of people watching know I certainly get them wrong sometimes. Misfit, yep, going up to 10. Tina, still hanging on. Again, plenty of time to catch up here. Plenty of time. Tina was the last one. Okay. What books do I like about the Constitution? So there, if you want to learn about the Constitution, as I pull this back up and we go back to the questions, if you want to learn about the Constitution, I really enjoyed a book called, it escapes me, of course. It's like another one of my top 3 books. Okay, let me ask the next question, and then I'll rack my brain while you guys guess. The battles of Lexington and Concord were the first battles of the Revolution. Who were forced to retreat? So during the Battle of Lexington and Concord, who was the first to retreat? Robert E. Lee, interesting. I'm trying to think. You know, his father, Henry Lighthorse Harry Lee, was an important member of the American Revolution. And recently I read about his cousin. He was a cousin of the Lee family, 2 of whom signed the Declaration. The Lee family was really important. But I did just read a Giles Unger book of I can't say it. Man, all the books are getting jumbled in my mind. Okay, so the book about the Constitution is called Plain Honest Men. And the author's name is eluding me right now. I'm going to look it up because I feel really bad. He passed away a few years ago, and it's an amazing book, Plain Honest Men. Plain Honest Men, The Making of the American Constitution by Richard Beeman. How did I forget that? And you know what? I will pull it up and give you guys a show real quick. It looks like this. Plain Honest Men is one of the best books about the United States Constitution because it talks about the whole summer. It talks about the summer of 1787, and not just what the men were doing in the room, but what they were doing outside the room in Philadelphia. And it's just a really, really, really fascinating overall picture, not just of the writing of the Constitution, but the people and the atmosphere of Philadelphia during the time. So, the Battle of Lexington and Concord were fought. Who was forced to retreat? It was the British. Yeah, you got it. It was the British. Let's see. Pull up the big board. Who got it? Cherokee Birth of the Republic is a good book. You're it. Oh, no, yeah. Okay. Okay, type Cherokee again. Birth of the Republic. Okay, I'm not sure the author. I think there are multiple books with that name. So I'm not sure which one you're referencing, but definitely. I'm sure they're both good. So we've got Misfit with the British going up to 11. Ashley with the British going up to 11. CB going up to 8. I was at 11. I can't count. And everyone else I distracted talking about a book, and I apologize for that. Plenty of time for everyone to win. Going back to my questions. Huzzah. So, let's see. What did I have to ask you? We'll find out. Oh, okay. You know what? Since this card has more questions than I anticipated on it, and I only have 2 of my questions left, and they have a lot of possible answers, so that's going to be kind of the... I'd prefer to keep that at the end and be like, what's going on here? We'll get through this card, then we'll go back to my questions, if that sounds okay to all of you. I'm assuming it does, because, you know, I'm in charge here. I'm not in charge of a lot in my life, but I'm in charge of this. And at the end, I'll be happy to take the time to remember books I actually like if you guys want. True or false? General Thomas Gage led the Minutemen in defense of Concord. Concord. True or false? It was General Thomas Gage that led the Minutemen in the defense of Concord. Yada da da doo 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 da bow waiting for answers. Doo 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 doo. Gonna sip my coffee, even though it's 9. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Okay. Oh well. Too late. Chip Davis with an F. Oh, because it's true or false. Oh, I see. I was like, it's not multiple choice, and I certainly don't remember A, B, C, D, E, F. Anyway, we'll give it another second. Everyone get in there. Although, to be fair, I should probably call it real quick before Ashley and Misfit get to answer, so that we can get everyone to catch up. And while I'm stalling, it was true or false. It was General Thomas Gage that led the Minutemen in defense of Concord. Man, that's a lot of peppermint. Yeah, I don't know if it's for me. I can't tell. Answers are still rolling in, so I will still, it'll be hard to hear me when I turn around, but I know there's books behind me I want to tell you about. Oh, you know what, actually? I think it was CD was the one asking for the book recommendations. There's a book called Founding Brothers by Joseph J. Ellis that came out, I believe, in the late 90s. And it is one of the earliest books that really got me into the American Revolution. And it actually got me into, like, the individual founders. And I've got a giant hair on my face. Okay. That wasn't my hair, I can tell you that. Yeah, I'll talk more about it in a second. I think the answers are in. More suspense. I'm getting really good at this foreshadowing suspense thing. And we actually have a bunch of different answers on this one. And I believe the answer is false. It is false. General Thomas Gage was the military dictator, or not dictator, but military governor of Boston who ordered the troops to go to get that gunpowder. And he was leading the British. But it was patriots who defended defending Concord's hard. No one was really in the lead of Concord. It just kind of broke out there, and then they chased the British in the retreat that we discussed earlier. So let's get to that big board. Okay, what we got? We have Chip Davis getting us a 5. And we got Chip Brown getting us a 9. And we have Ashley and Misfit. Sorry, gals. Sorry, team. Excuse me. Yeah, the chips. I like it. I love it. You guys got to both come every week because it's great to have the team of the chips. And you know what? While we're here, I guess I should pop this up. We do have a very close race right now, especially up by the top. But again, it's not too late. When we have a few more questions. We have 3 more questions on the card, and then I have 2 questions coming up that are going to have. You could possibly get a whole bunch of answers, although they are a little tricky. But there are a lot of names you have the opportunity to say. So, next question on the card. In which colony did the fighting begin? Short and sweet. They are referencing the Revolutionary War when they say the fighting. So, in what colony did the violence of the American Revolution actually break out? The actual war, in what colony? And unlike earlier, it was full-on colony at this point. You know what? I know you're making a joke, Ashley, but, I mean, having teams is something we could plausibly do in the future. To be honest, I actually thought about, like, in the future, once the channel's a little bigger and I spend a little money on this, once I save up a little bit more, I was thinking about putting, like, a camera up here down on my desk and, like, seeing if we could play, like, a board game. Like, I did that. I did the one, like, instructional video on how to play Rebellion 1775 on the computer, and it's technically a board game on the computer, but I'd like to do, like, a real board game. That'd be... Actually, I have this game that I got a while ago that I've never played because no one wants to play with me. It's called Duel or Deal. It's about Hamilton, and, like... But, like, there's all sorts of different founders. James Monroe, Marie Antoinette, James Armistead Lafayette, George Clymer. I've had trouble figuring out who even made it. I can't find one to play with, so eventually I have to do that. And it looks like the answers are in. And yeah, the answer is Massachusetts. It started in Concord and Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. Popping up the scene. Who took the time to answer? CD. All right, up to 6. We got Misfit, 12. We've got CB, 10. Ooh, double digits. We got Ashley, 12. And that's that. You know, Ashley, you say that, but, like, remember, you tied Matt. You won last week. You tied Matt 2 weeks ago. Like, yeah, I feel like you saying Matt's going to be the champion is kind of a red herring over there. But we will continue. Okay, question 2. The first battle of the war occurred when British troops marched on what city? The first battle of the war occurred when British troops marched on what city? Again, this game is like you're supposed to roll the die and like you get 1, 2, or 3 and then you have to answer either question 1, 2, or 3 and I'm just doing all of them. I'm gonna let you guys answer this. I'm going to accept a few different answers because this question is worded very poorly. I think I know what they're going for. And the word city is fairly generous. If that's what they mean. But, like, there's also a battle that's not technically a battle and not technically part of the war that I would also accept. I'm seeing answers coming in. Sorry, radio silence. I gotta keep talking. I forget. I always forget. I gotta keep talking. I do see answers coming in. I know you guys are thinking things through and taking your time. Please do. I certainly don't want to rush you. I'm gonna start saying the answer. And again, I've not seen the answer to this question. The Battle of Northbridge is a really interesting answer. And probably right. If I'm not mistaken, Battle of Northbridge is the one in Concord. Lexington is where they marched first, but like the battle was really at Concord is really where the violent, like it started out to be a battle, and like I never knew why it wasn't called Concord, the Battle of Concord and Lexington, because kind of they went through Lexington, then to Concord. That's where the battle started out and went back through Lexington, and also alphabetically. But there was also the Battle of Fort William and Mary outside Portsmouth, just like a few months before this, which I also would have accepted. I'm gonna see what they had to say. Concord. They said Concord. I just want to. Because, like, yeah, calling Concord a city is tough. Yeah. They said Concord. Like, Davis definitely gets points because the Battle of Northbridge is, like, technically the Battle of Concord. I am going to pop up the big board here. Where am I? Where did I go here? What am I doing here? Okay, get it together, Jay Mandresh. We can do this. Chip Davis definitely getting a point for that. 7. Everyone else, yeah, I know it was Concord. It's not really a city. This is where it's heartbreaking for me. But you know what? No, I'm gonna like kind of stand fast on my opinion that like there was really the first battle was really they went through Lexington to Concord, and that's where it started. Even though it came back through Lexington, again, as I said, I've always thought it should be named the Battle of Concord and Lexington. It makes sense on so many levels. So sorry, everyone. Really good job, CD. I really appreciate that. Not great with team names. Oh, you guys are like really. You guys have already decided that there are going to be teams in the future. Okay, we'll think about how that'll have to work. Because like you guys will have to like have final answers, and the problem is I wouldn't be able to wait super long. We would have to have final answers. Kind of rapid fire. Let's finish out this card. Last question on the card. The first exchange of gunfire occurred at Lexington when British troops fought Minutemen. Why were colonial militia nicknamed Minutemen? The first exchange of gunfire occurred at Lexington when British troops fought like there was gunfire at Lexington. Technically, you know what? I'm gonna go back. I am. I feel I can't like in good faith not give points for this. So Ashley, you're getting 1 for Lexington. Chip Brown getting 1. And Misfit. Wait, yes, Misfit. You're getting 1. And Chip Davis, you're gonna get an extra bonus point for being way more right. Not that anyone else was wrong. It's just such a more right answer. But since it said it on the card. Oh no, it technically didn't even say it on the card. Doesn't matter. I'm over it. Things coming in not great with names, so that's a wash. No one got that one. The commanding officer that was one of 2 people killed during the Battle of Northbridge was my. That's so funny. I was just reading about I have planned on writing an article about Isaac Davis next week, Chip. So make sure you subscribe because I'll be talking about it in the Wednesday live video. Like I said, I haven't seen your name here before. I don't want to talk down to you as if you're never seen anything I've done yet, and this is your first time showing up. If it is, great. But I put out videos 3 days a week, and a live video on Wednesday where I wrap up the articles I write on my website, founderoftheday.com. Also, if you want to learn about the American Revolution, what you should read is founderoftheday.com, where I write 5 new articles a week about random Americans. And just to remind me, because I was reading about Chip Davis, but I didn't actually write it down, I am going to give myself a note. Chip Davis. I'm going to, sorry, man, not a founding father. Isaac Davis. Oh, wow. Like, you still have the same last name. That's amazing. I believe my mother has a maiden name that comes from the American Revolution, which I did not get. And we are waiting for a question, right? Because you guys are doing. Oh, okay. Respond to threats quickly. Minute notice. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, essentially that's it. Minute notice. They had to be ready right away, and they were all men. So there's that. So, Ashley gets 1. That's 14. Watch my math here. I'm definitely going to screw it up. Misfit gets 1. That's 14. Chip B. It's 12. Again, not out of it. Looks like S disappeared on us. That happens. These are longer, I think, than people expect them to be. And that's it. Chip Davis. I've distracted. It did not answer that question. Sorry. Saw my interview with someone I listened to recently. It was probably Burmis. I think that's the only place I've been interviewed at any time in the last long time. But great, thanks for coming. Like I said, Wednesdays I write articles 5 days a week, and Wednesdays I do a wrap up. So that about an hour long wrap up where we talked a little bit this week, but I think from now on. By the way, guys, from now on the weekly wrap ups on Wednesdays, I'm gonna set a time limit of an hour and then just call that. On this we can chit chat, and that's why I'm adding the thing on Sunday where we can chit chat like we've been doing at the end. Again, it's Friday, I can hang out all night here, but Wednesdays at 10, I mean, like 9:15. Not that I'm complaining. I had a great time talking with you guys. I just should not have stayed up so late. Gotta wake up and write articles. Okay, so we've gotten through these cards. Now is the fun part. We're down to our last 2 questions, and they are both questions I created with my mind. They have nothing to do with anything I wrote this week, nothing to do with anything we discussed, nothing to do with these cards. They are just fun questions that I made up that have several answers, and we can get a lot of points out of it and really go for it. For those of you still hanging around. So, feel free to answer. So, Next question. Only 5 signers of the Continental Association also signed the Articles of Confederation. Who were they? And just to remind you, there were 4 major documents of the American Revolution. The Continental Association, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the United States Constitution. Continental Association, people often forget, it was the result of the First Continental Congress, and among other things is most notable for establishing the boycott against British goods that more or less led to a war 6 months later. So, there were only 5 people who signed both the Continental Association and the Articles of Confederation. Who were they? There are 5 of them. Some of the names are more difficult than others. And I will accept just the last name. And they are worth 1 point each. You guys seem to be taking your time. Again, I know it's a little challenging, but there are a lot of right answers. Throw them out there. You don't lose points for getting it wrong. And again, I know that these are the 2 documents that had the least signers. Last week, you guys missed an easier one, which was like who signed both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. That's a lot easier a question. Interesting answers, Chip. Very interesting answers. Ashley with an interesting answer. I'm not going to give too much away yet. People still have the opportunity to do it. And once I say a name, it's kind of off the table. Chip is going with like straight Massachusetts answers. And your ancestor fought in Massachusetts. I'm wagering. I have a wager what state you live in, Chip. No, not church. Okay, take it back, dude. Okay, fine. You may take it back. Okay, seen a few answers coming in. These are a lot of fun. I think it is just the 4 of us now. I mean, there's 6 people hanging out, but it seems to only be the 4 of us answering. Let's see. I'm stalling for time. The only books you've read. Oh, have you read Founding Martyr? Oh, how did I forget? Founding Martyr. Is it even behind me? It is. Yeah. Is this the book you read? I sure hope it is. Mr. Davis, if you have not read Founding Martyr, it's called. It's hard to see because I do have lights on me. One of the reasons I need to keep drinking water. Founding Martyr by Christian Despigna, who I've interviewed on this channel. By the way, guys, I am going to start my interviews back up in January because I think I've finally figured out how to actually do it with the new setup. For those of you new here, as I like to say, I was shooting this channel on my phone for a very long time until about August, where I bought some real equipment, and I'm still figuring it out. Well, Tina, I'm having fun. That I'm having fun being watched? No, that doesn't sound right. We're all having fun here. Oh, Mr. Davis, you absolutely need to read Founding Martyr. If you're interested in the beginning of the war, Joseph Warren, you mentioned his name, is an astoundingly important American founder. And he died at the Battle of Bunker Hill. So he died well before. Well, spoiler alert, that answer was wrong. He dies well before the revolution even happens. But he's still hugely important. And on this channel, type in interview or something. I interviewed Christian Despigna, and he kind of spent 20 years writing this book about the man. And he's a wealth of knowledge and just the nicest guy in the whole world. So I highly, highly recommend you pick up a copy of that book. You're in Oregon. That's not Massachusetts. Are you in Medford, Oregon? Because I understand that's named after Medford, Massachusetts, as is Medford, New York, where I grew up. Whammy. Though I don't live there now. I'm going to start going through because now I have to scroll down. So Hancock, Warren Church. No, good guesses, because Hancock did sign not just the Declaration of Independence, but he did sign the Continental Association. Not church, yeah. Okay, and you know what? I'm going to pop up the board while I go through this, because that's how we do. Ashley with Roger Sherman, always going to be a correct answer with this kind of thing, because Roger Sherman is the only one to sign all 4. That's 15. Ashley with Sam Adams, whammy, 16. Chip Brown, Sherman, as I said, can't go wrong with that answer. Misfit, Sherman, as I said, can't go wrong with that answer. Misfit, Roger Morris, a great suggestion. Wait a minute. I don't have Roger. Well, Robert Morris is what I am assuming you mean, and I don't actually have them up here. Let me check the list, because that feels super right. No. Oh, Robert Morris did not sign the Continental Association. He signed everything else. Fantastic guess. Unfortunately, it is incorrect. But a great guess. And he was certainly a leader of Philadelphia when it was signed, and pretty much on board with what was happening. And now I've lost my place because of how astonished I am at that great guess. Misfit, Gouverneur Morris. No, again, a great guess. Gouverneur Morris is one of the authors of the Constitution and a signer of that, and a signer of. He didn't sign the Declaration or the article, the Continental Association. He actually signs the Articles of a Confederation from as a delegate from New York, and then the Constitution is delegate from Pennsylvania. But great guess. Misfit, Jefferson. No, actually, I don't think Jefferson signed either of these. Obviously, he signed the Declaration of Independence, but George Washington signed the Continental Association. It wasn't until he became leader of the Continental Army that he was replaced. A few people were replaced at the same time, but Jefferson essentially replaces Washington. I need to watch my Wednesday lectures. They're a lot of fun. They're fun because I write 5 articles a week, and then on the weekends, if you follow me on Twitter, Facebook, or my email, I also put out 2, from my extensive archives on the weekend. And then on Wednesdays, what I do is I discuss the 7 articles I wrote that week, so they're like fresh in my mind, and I think they're fun. And there's not so much conversation and like this. I'm just kind of going through it almost as if it's a real lecture. Imagine that. Ashley with Richard Henry Lee. Great job. That is a great guess. And it is the correct answer. And as of right now, I think people are just throwing things out. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, everyone, Ashley gets up to 17 here. We're not done yet, though. John Dickinson. Another really great estimation. Again, someone else I feel like did. But I don't have them here. John Dickinson. I'm sorry, Misfit. You're right. And I did not have him. There were not 5 people, there were 6 people. When I looked at my list, I forgot that John Dickinson signed the Continental Association from Pennsylvania and signed the articles from Delaware. You were right, and Misfit, you get 2 points. You get 2 points because I got that one wrong, and I wrote this question. And that 2 points is very convenient because we are tied up at the top here. You are absolutely right. And you know what? I'm going to double check Gouverneur Morris, whose name I can never say, because now I'm triple guessing myself. No, I was right. Morris signed just the 2. That's right, because last week, as we discussed, Misfit, thank you for paying attention. John Dickinson really should have signed all 4 major documents with Roger Sherman, but he absented himself from the vote on independence and then the signing of the independence. Who said it? You said Dickinson, did you? Did you, Ashley? I mean, I believe you. I believe you. I'm embarrassed I didn't see it. Going through 2 articles. Wait, where? Where'd you... I just don't want there to be things I'm not seeing is all. I believe you. Wait. Let me say this. I totally believe you that you did say it. I just don't see it here, and that concerns me that I'm overlooking other people's correct answers. Can someone confirm this for me? Now I'm like nervous. Now I'm freaking out. After Misfits Roger Morris. I'm in Oregon. Governor Morris. Wait, what? Did not go through. Let me double check over here. Let me actually go to the real thing. Oh, by the way, I always forget. If you guys could hit like, that would be amazing and really make my day. Oh, what? Wow. You're right. Misfit. Interesting. Well, that is a boatload and not great. Well, I'm certainly going to give you credit. Okay. So, where are we going to go? We're going to pop back up here and do this. And I'm going to explain my confusion. Sorry, Misfit. Ashley's up to 18. We got one more big question coming up, though. So, damn it. So, I'm a book nerd, and I've had a lot of trouble figuring out the computer part of, I got a webcam and a microphone and these lights. Like, I'm trying to do it good for you guys. And so my major problem has been which programs to use to shoot with. That's why I keep coming up quiet sometimes. And this program I like because it's super easy, and it gives me, in the program I actually use to make the video, it also brings me up YouTube's comments. But apparently, not all of YouTube's comments come through, and that's not great. So I will have to reconfigure my entire life for the next live video. So if I've missed you today or any time in the past, I apologize. I assure you I'm not ignoring anyone on purpose. I'm just not as good at computers as I probably should be. So why don't we let's answer this question. Now, where was the question? Now I'm all over the place. Now I'm really all over the place. So, only 6 signers of the Continental Association also signed the Articles of Confederation. And we did get Samuel Adams, John Dickinson, Roger Sherman, and Richard Henry Lee. Additionally, there was Thomas McKean of Delaware and James Duane of New York. Very obscure, but we got a lot of questions out of it. So Ashley, it did go through when I got dark for a second there on screen. I went over and looked at YouTube, and actual YouTube did do it, did accept what you write, but my program that I am currently sending video to YouTube with and pulling out the comments from did not pull out that one comment. It's just so much easier this way. Okay. It's all good. Computer tech is, I'm not great. You're getting a bachelor's in computers. Well, let me know. Let me know what the best live streaming program platform is, because I'm having obvious trouble dealing with it. Any hoozle. Last question. Take a sip of coffee just to keep the suspense going. Yeah, well, you know what? If I could turn this into a part-time income where I can actually hire someone, then yes, I will hire Misfit, I'm sure. Until then, till I'm breaking even instead of kind of dumping money into it. Oh, by the way, check out my Patreon page, because I put a bunch of content over there, and I'm redoing that right now, too. Oh, also, I'll tell you about this later. Thinking about opening a Discord channel, but that's a whole thing. Last question. Let's have some fun here. How many signers of the 4 major documents of the American Revolution were named Edward? What were their last names? We've kind of two questions here. The 4 major documents of the American Revolution: the Continental Association, Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, and U.S. Constitution. Of those 4 documents, how many of the signers of those documents were named Edward? So that's one answer. That it's a number. How many were named Edward? And then you get one more point for each last name you can give me. Now that I'm looking at it, this is gonna be tough. This is tough. Stalin. So anyway, Chip Davis, if you're still here, or anyone else who cares, definitely read Founding Martyr if you're learning about the early war. No, they didn't have to sign all 4, Ashley. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. They could have signed 1 or more. Just at least one of the 4 major documents, and their first name was Edward. How many people fit that category? Good question. Thank you for having me specify. I'm really trying here. Usually I'm talking about something particular when I recommend a book. And now it's just like, what book? It's like, all of them. There's only hundreds of thousands. Mine, whenever I get around to writing it. That would be great. Chip Davis Braddock. That's an interesting answer. That is a great answer. If you like learning about individuals, then Signing Their Lives Away is a fun book, which is just basically a short bios about signers of the Declaration of Independence. Gentleman Revolutionary. So I really like the author Richard Brookhiser, who was, for a long time at least, one of the... and I see you guys writing names, and that's great, but don't forget, you will get points if you guess the right number of people named Edward who signed a document. Richard Brookhiser used to be the editor of the National Review. I try my best not to talk about modern politics on this channel. I wouldn't necessarily agree with everything he says in modern politics in the National Review, but when it comes to the American Revolution, in my perspective, he's one of the most underappreciated American Revolution authors. That being said, he's definitely great and definitely has respect, in the industry. Excuse me. And I'm certainly a little bit biased because it was his book, Gentleman Revolutionary, that kind of turned me on to other American founders. That like I said, there's the book Founding Brothers, which I shouldn't keep turning around, but Founding Brothers by Joseph J. Ellis. This is the starter book for anyone who wants to start learning about the American Revolution. It just goes through 6 events that happened during the war. Or not even during the war, just during the American founding. Everything from the duel between Hamilton and Burr to the dinner that, if you see the play Hamilton, the room where it happened. 6 moments in the American Revolution. And it talks about the people involved. And it's a really nice introduction to the American Revolution. And then Richard Brookhiser's book, Gentleman Revolutionary. Again, I threw out all my dust covers a while ago, which is stupid because this has a cool cover. It's about the one-legged ladies' man who wrote the words "We the People" in the United States Constitution, who literally is the draftsman whose penmanship is the United States Constitution. And it's a really easy read. I wouldn't say it's short, but it's a super easy read. It's a lot of fun. And he's just one of those characters. And after that, I was like, okay, who else? What are all these other signatures on these documents, right? Okay, so, again, no one told me a number. There are some really interesting guesses coming out. I think Misfit is clearly trying to look things up. I think Ashley pretty much looked it up. I am okay with that. Because, and I'm going to call it now, I am going to say I should deduct a point from you, Ashley, when you clearly looked it up, but got the number wrong. And I already called it, so you're getting this last one in. You know, I'll let Misfit get that last one in because we're going to the big board. Chip Braddock's a great guest, but no, unfortunately, it's not. Harvey and Lacrasse, no. Reading the name Edwards, I have in Beck's books. Oh, interesting. Well, Edward Braddock, yeah, General Edward Braddock is huge, but he does not hang out with the Patriots, and he does not get to sign anything. So, the answer is 5. And the name that seems to be missing here is Edward Pendleton, who signed the Continental Association that we've been talking about, but passed away before independence was signed. So, whammy. The Pendleton family, a very important Virginian family. Let's pop up the big. Oh, I already popped up the big board behind me over here. Now I gotta find it. We have, yeah, I actually got 4 of them, which her record of 18 is now being shattered with 22. And Misfit, Rutledge, Biddle, and you did get Langworthy in there, right? Yes. So that is 3, and that is 20. Wow. It's a lot of points this week. And that's where it ends. And technically Ashley wins, but you can't win twice in a row. I do want to note, for some of you who have won in the past and have not received your prizes quite yet, we had a little miscommunication in this house, and I thought it was sent out by my spouse with her work pile, and no, it just went out today. So Merry Christmas. You are getting your prizes. I am not a liar or a cheat. I am just forgetful and confused. So they are on their way for the holidays, and I thank you guys so much. I will get to your question in just a second. Yeah, Misfit, you killed it though, because 20 is more than we've ever had before. Granted, there were a few extra questions, but that is great. And, you know, technically you win anyway, Misfit. So, yeah, I do think I mailed you something today. Again, I'm like way behind it, and I apologize on the confusion. But what we're going to do for you is you are going to pick out of the stickers. So, again, I haven't said it enough today. For those of you new here, I'm wearing a Liberty Co. t-shirt. If you like the American Revolution, it keeps popping up here throughout. There's a company called Liberty & Co. This is their logo. They are an amazing, they make like the best. Speaking of the flag, the pine tree flag, he makes the best merchandise with the American Revolution. It's not just your standard stuff you always see, like the George Washington flag. I have a John Adams, here, I'll hold up the magnet. The John Adams, do I have it? Or did I give them away? Like the law firm of John Adams. Like, how awesome is that? Like, and I have that on a t-shirt, and they're super comfortable. I wear them in every video underneath. I wash them, just throw them in the wash for years. I've had this like 2 years. It looks brand new. He really goes for quality. And 10% of your proceeds go to the American Revolution Museum in Philadelphia. So, I'm going to pull out some stickers here and give you the option. We've got, and they're white, so they're like hard to see, but we got a Lafayette. Oh, didn't I? Lisa, I think you got stickers on the way. Would you prefer a sticker or a magnet? Let me know. So we got a Lafayette sticker. Yeah, Misfit, your name, you're Amber, right? I've been meaning to like write everyone's like real name down next to their stage name over here so I can keep track, but like Misfit, I think I sent you a bunch of stickers today. So yeah, no, you did great. Let me know, would you prefer one of these magnets or a sticker? Let me know. I'm here. And I do see questions coming in. Again, I'm happy to hang out for a little bit, even though we're done technically with the quiz. I love talking about the American Revolution and can go all night. Do I know anything about the tree flag? Am I confusing Edward Pendleton with Edmund Pendleton? Holy moly, probably. Like, as soon as you said it, it's like, yeah, I did, didn't I? Edward Rutledge. Yep. See, I told you I get them wrong sometimes. Thank you, Ashley. I think you're the one who. Oh no. Oh, Misfit. Yes, Amber. Okay, I thought so. Yeah. So you have a bunch of stickers on the way. Let me know if. Sure. All right. I'll send you. I was a little bit late, so I put in some extra Christmas stuff. So I'll send you another package. Don't worry, you'll get a prize. I don't know what it is. It'll be a mix of some of this stuff. Thank you so much for playing, and everyone. Yeah. Now, so we should go back. I'm going to go up and see the numbers. It looks like it doesn't much matter because Ashley and Misfit both put 4. So add 1. I will do it just because it looks nice. And we're setting records here every week. Granted, we're adding questions every week. But still. And you've officially gotten significantly ahead. Yeah. But great job this week, Misfit. Like, I mean, Ashley's a tough character when it comes to Rev War trivia. And you're right up there with her. Okay, Mr. Davis. I've heard that the flag is really the American flag and that our current flag is the flag of the Dutch East India Company. Okay, when you say the pine tree flag, I understand you're talking about the one in Massachusetts. That is the Massachusetts Navy's flag. The pine tree comes from, or maybe it's New Hampshire, but it comes from the Pine Tree Riots. So just before them, all the different colonies got upset for different reasons, but they all had a lot of reasons, and they overlap, certainly. But New Hampshire in particular, for a very long time, the king Massachusetts had untouched wilderness, and these forests had gigantic trees that could be used as the main mast on a ship. So what the king would do is he would send his men out into the woods and mark off trees with the king's insignia on it. Now, these trees were on people's private property, and these people in, the wilderness of New Hampshire, the frontier of New Hampshire, mostly were lumberjacks and made their money selling timber. Also, not sap, but like maple syrup and things like that. They had a few products, but the lumberjacks made a lot of money on the biggest trees they can cut down because you could build really nice ships with them. And the king would mark it off, and no one cared. They'd cut down the king's trees and use them themselves for a very long time. And then eventually, after the French and Indian War, suddenly the king started enforcing these rules. And people were like, okay, king, whatever, and kept cutting it down. And then suddenly they started arresting people who were caught cutting down king's trees. And more than arresting them, even taking the trees from them. And they didn't love this. And it broke out into the Pine Tree Riots. I'm a little ahead of myself because it broke out in the Pine Tree Riots that essentially brought... Oh, you're taking off, Ashley? All right, thank you so much for playing, Ashley. See you next Friday. And like I said, make sure you like and subscribe because on Saturday at noon Eastern time, I'm going to go live. And I was hoping you guys could just, like, if you had a founder's name you want to learn about, bring me some founders' names. I'll have some of my own, but that's the challenge for you. That's your homework. Get a name or two, bring it to me. I'll pull up the article I've probably written about them and talk about it. As far as, so there was the Pine Tree Riots in Massachusetts where there were New Hampshire, where there were actually riots about the pine trees. And then in Falmouth, Maine, there was something called Thompson's War. I think the gentleman's first name was Samuel, but I'm not positive. Something Thompson. And in Thompson's War, it wasn't really a war, it was more like a battle where the Maine at the time was part of Massachusetts, and the British came and there was a fight, and the Patriots were able to... There wasn't a fight. Essentially, the British came and said, give us your supplies so we can... Let me say this again. The British occupied Boston, but they were surrounded by Patriots, and they needed food and supplies. So they sent out some ships to Falmouth, Maine, that we now know as Portland, Maine. And they sailed into the harbor, and at first they were told, don't come in the harbor, we're Patriots here. And then the guy running the ship was like, yeah, okay. Came in anyway, and goes to the church. And then the Patriots, the militia there, they didn't really have outfits or uniforms. So what they did is they stuck pine twigs in their hats to indicate who they were as their uniform. And during this time, they arrested the man while he was, I believe, in church. That's right. The Pine Tree Riots was when he was sleeping. This guy was in church, and they went and arrested him. And they basically put him on a ship and said, "Get out of here," and scared him off. There was a little bit of fighting, but not like real warfare. It wasn't really a war, even though it's called Thompson's War. But it was because they used the pine trees there, and because the pine trees were so important. As I said, New Hampshire, the same thing was going on in Maine. And that's why the Massachusetts Navy took on the white pine tree, the pine tree flag that you're accustomed to, that you're probably referencing here. So those are two different things. In New Hampshire, it was the Pine Tree Riots, and in Maine, which was Massachusetts, it was Thompson's War. And those are the two big stimuli for why the pine tree became very important. I'm sure there are other reasons in other parts of the country. Those are the two that come to mind right away. And also, Liberty & Co. Has candles that they sell, and one is like a pine tree kind of candle for reasons. Oh, that's their logo, for Live Free or Die. Let's see, and I see a lot of things coming in. All right, thank you, Ashley. I'm hugely appreciative that you guys come and give me your time. I really do. There was also a flag with only vertical stripes. Maybe it's when Misfit will certainly get to my picture. As far as the flag you're referencing, Chip, at the time, many flags were just kind of cobbled together by whoever could do them. I know we love the Betsy Ross story, but they were just kind of thrown together. Oftentimes, many flags were militia flags, which may have come early. I believe it was in 1777, in June of 1777, when Francis Hopkinson, a signer of the Declaration, first came up with the design of the American flag. But it wasn't specifically the American flag as like we know it today. It was like there should be a field of blue, and there should be this many stripes, and then some stars, and you kind of do what you want for stars. Hi, John Adams, coming in. Anyhoozle. So I'm not entirely sure which flag you made. I'm sure there were flags that were like that. But no, this is essentially the first flag, and it's called the Betsy Ross flag. That's one of those like hard truths I hate to tell people, that like it wasn't really Betsy Ross's flag. It's really more like the Francis Hopkinson flag, the one with the circle. You know, not this. That's really the first flag. Okay, I am going to get to my picture for you, Amber. The game I mentioned before, it was a history game on the computer. What was it called? Is it a fantasy world kind of game? Oh, Tina, no. So it's, I put a video up a few weeks back of me, like, playing a playthrough just to teach, because, you know, on YouTube, if you play video games, those of you who play video games, sometimes you want to look things up on, like, how to play. It's called Rebellion 1775. It's essentially a tabletop game that like, you're rolling dice, except now you just click because it's on the computer. There's also an 1812 version, which I haven't played too much. Misfit, Molly Pitcher. So Molly Pitcher is not anyone's real name. And there's a few, so I'm going to pull it up here and see. There are a few, like, Molly Pitchers out there. And they're essentially women who found themselves in a tough spot and decided to jump in and help fight in the war. So most people credit Molly Pitcher for a woman named Mary Ludwig Hayes, who I think she was a camp follower. I've written about her, and parts of her identity are getting lost in my mind. But essentially, she was a camp follower. Her job was to bring out pitchers of water to soldiers who were thirsty while they're fighting, and to pour on cannons, because, you know, cannons back then, they got really hot, and if they got too hot, they would explode and destroy whoever was operating them. I don't mean to laugh at the many people who fell victim to that, but so Molly Pitchers would bring out pitchers of water to cool off the cannons and cool off the soldiers. Now, at the Battle of Monmouth, and a particularly hot day where apparently more people died of heat stroke than actual violence at the Battle of Monmouth. And she was running out the water, and she saw a soldier die, and she decided to step in and take over his cannon and just blast off, and became kind of a hero for that. There's also another woman, and Brandon Corbin, Margaret Cochran Corbin, who did something similar at the Battle of at the defense of Fort Washington in New York City. Her husband, she was again carrying a pitcher and pour for the men and to pour on the cannons, and her husband was firing a cannon with someone, and that someone died, and Mary Cochran Corbin jumped in and helped her husband fire a cannon, and then her husband was killed right in front of her, and instead of crying like a baby, she took the cannon and started firing it herself. She was wounded severely, and I think it was her left arm, if I'm not mistaken. She couldn't use for the rest of her life, and she was actually she was captured at the Battle of Fort Washington. Many people were, but. And again, this is not my attitude. This is the attitude that men had at the time. But it was the British essentially said, "What are we going to do with an injured woman?" And so they sent her back, and she made her way down to Philadelphia. And Margaret Cochran Corbin actually would later on petition for a pension as a Revolutionary War soldier, and she was the first woman to ever get a military pension from the United States government. Again, Mary Ludwig Hayes is usually the one credited as Molly Pitcher. Many women were in situations like this, and they all are Molly Pitchers. But from my perspective, Mary Cochran Corbin is really the one. Like, if you Google Molly Pitcher, Mary Hayes comes up, but it's like it really should be Mary Cochran Corbin, in my particular opinion. Excuse me. I need to get home to. Sorry, John Adams. That's all right, man. We'll be out. I also, like I was saying, on Sunday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, I'm gonna be having like a live Q&A where I'm hoping you guys do some homework and find a founder that you're interested in learning more about and bring them, and I will pull them up on my website that I've probably, in 2.5 years, I'm closing in about 900 articles. So I've probably written about whoever you're curious about, and I can just pull it up and use it as a guideline to, talk. Right now, I'm like wrenching through my mind to find like Mary Ludwig Hayes, Margaret Cochran Corbin, when I could just have it in front of. I actually could have already done that in hindsight. Were the cannons like mortars? Not so much. There were some people we talked about not too long ago. Doohickey Arnold. Doohickey Arundel, who should have not shot off a mortar. John Adams. Okay, 9 in the morning. Oh, so that's a little tough. I can see that. That's why I was going to do it 11, but that's why I moved it to 12. Is so, like, it's not so early on the West Coast. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I could do 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a little late for me. At this point, I've already told people until now I'm doing it at noon Eastern Standard Time. So I have to this week because they left already. But next week we can talk about doing it at 1 or maybe 12:30 or something like that. I'm open to it. I just want to. We keep ending up chit-chatting like this for a while at the end of a lot of the videos. So if, like I said, I'll be happy to start doing more. Do I have my show schedule posted anywhere? No. So I do most of my work on the weekends. So great question, Chip. I have been considering that. Tomorrow morning I will go post it. So right now what I do is it's 8:15 Monday through Friday. Is essentially what you have to know. 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. I go live Wednesdays and Fridays, and then Monday, Tuesday, Thursday I put out a short. I try and keep them under 4 minutes, though recently they're almost 6. Either a quick biography of someone super random, or much like yesterday's video about George Washington's veto, I talk about a very particular incident or story. And those I keep short. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday I keep short. And like I said, coming up in January, I've done interviews in the past. I did like 10 interviews, and I'm hoping to do. I am going to start doing them back up in January. Get through the Christmas holiday season. People don't really have time for me right now, as you can imagine. What about John Adams' wife, Abigail, in her role to advocate for women? So, Tina, again, I will try and answer you very quickly here. I don't want to say go do something else, but I actually interviewed Jane Hampton Cook over the summer, and she, we talk about several of the early founders, but she's written about and she discusses how her writings, not just to her husband, John, but to other people, and her Remember the Ladies quote, started a debate actually between her husband, John, and James Sullivan, who later would become governor of Massachusetts. At the time was just in the Massachusetts Assembly, but it was during the Revolution, so like they weren't really discussing women's liberation when they were like trying to fight a war. But there was she helped spark a debate between John Adams and James Sullivan about this very nature and like what were we fighting for, you know? And it's really interesting, especially in Massachusetts where things were growing very quickly at the time. You know, this is a time and place where over the next few years, like they'd eliminate slavery and things of that nature. So it's a really interesting conversation. Like I said, I would really recommend you check out that because Jane Hampton Cook can speak much more thoroughly and authoritatively on Abigail Adams than I can and does. I mean, I know a lot about Abigail Adams, don't get me wrong, but let's see. What about John? Okay. Misfit. Deborah Sampson's life after the war was interesting because she toured to... Okay, so Misfits, I think you're the one who brought up last week that Alexander Hamilton was recently outed as a slaver, and I mentioned that the person who wrote this now suddenly popular piece about Alexander Hamilton is Jesse Sir Filippi, who is the first person I ever interviewed on this channel, and back before she was controversial, and I interviewed her about Deborah Sampson. So go check out my interviews. This is great that you guys are asking questions about people I've interviewed because I'm so excited to start doing the interviews again. Like I said, now that I think I've finally figured out how to have them on my new improved software without having an echo or like visual problems because I'm not great at computers. Did I have another name before? Oh, John Adams. Yeah, John Adams is Braden, right? It's Braden? Yeah. Patriots fun. Patriots really interesting. They get a lot of like, you know, the costumes and set and everything right. It's not like, oh, that actually happened, but what they did essentially is they took several American founders and squished their stories into one Mel Gibson character. So it's a great movie. And, you know, over the summer, maybe it was a year ago, I remember seeing the debate on Twitter whether or not, like, people should recommend that people in the industry should recommend that people who are new to the American Revolution watch The Patriot. And some people were saying no because it's not accurate. I was on the, like, yes, definitely side because it's exciting. I mean, it came out when I was a very... I wouldn't even call myself a man. You know, I was a child when that came out, but I still saw it despite the violence. Because, I mean, Heath Ledger, right? You know, the 143rd greatest actor of all time. It was a very... I recommend it. I really enjoy it. So, you do want to take it with a grain of salt, but it's fun. Yeah, my original name. Now you're John Adams. It's really cool. Both names are cool, Braden. I like it. Do I have any articles or favorite sources on the topic or interfamily conflict during the Revolution, Franklin or his son? So I will tell you that, like, my go-to source is a thing called Founders Online. The National Archives has a part of their webpage called Founders Online. Now, you can Google that. Be careful because some of them are like Founders Bank, but it's usually one of the top 2 or 3 things if you Google it. Founders Online is a collection of almost 200,000 letters and documents and correspondence between American founders that you can Google through, and most of them are footnoted. They do have like new ones coming in all the time that don't have footnotes, like those won't have footnotes, but most of them have footnotes. And that is where I get, like, that is my go-to backup source for everything I find. Anything, because I read a lot of books. I've found a lot of founders in books, but now, like, especially searching for obscure people, I do a good chunk of my research online. But to confirm anything I find, I go through and you can read their words. So that is really the number one place. Now, as far as interfamily conflict during the revolution, it's funny you say that. Like, I've been reading about that a lot. I've been considering writing more about families, not necessarily conflict between families, but families on, like, one family in general, like the Livingstons of New York or the Gilmans of New Hampshire. But those would entail interfamily conflicts, and there was a lot of it. As far as one particular book, no, not really. No, I don't know of one that, like, focuses on interfamily conflict. That's actually would be a really interesting read. I'm sure they're out there. I just haven't necessarily come across them yet. The ones I keep, like, coming to mind initially are ones that are biographies that, whether intentionally or not, are biased to one of those families, and kind of glances over the other side's argument a lot. That's a great question, Chip. No, don't. I only saw one bad review of the movie, and now I can't watch it, sadly. What, The Patriot? The internet's tough, Misfit. Don't. I mean, it's Mel Gibson. Someone's always going to hate on Mel Gibson. At this point, he's a very easy target. What is my second favorite topic from history? I don't know. That's a tough question, man. I like a lot. I mean, I'm pretty open. Recently, I've been trying to learn a lot. Well, Tina, you were asking me about open world games. Well, I've been playing a game called Assassin's Creed. What is the new one? Valhalla, about Vikings invading England. And what's funny is I've been studying a lot of England and, like, its geography and separate invasions of England. Although, so, like, when I first was in school, I was a music industry major, and I was like, that'll never get me a job. Let me get a job in history, which, like, great choice. I will say, I did intend to get a PhD, but then, I realized I had to, work for a living. When I first started studying history, I actually took 4 classes in a semester, and it was 2 American Revolution classes and 2 classes on Nazi Germany, which I won't say is fun. Some of you may have seen me on my friend Jay Burmis's Conspiracy Show, and I had met him in college. And again, I don't like to talk about modern politics at all. My particular beliefs don't line up with much of anything you'll see on TV. But I was confused on, like, how did we get here? Like, I was a senior in high school for 9/11, and I was kind of removed from politics at all. I was taken way back by it, living 40 minutes away and having no idea about politics. So I, like, started learning my senior year of high school and then went into college, and I was like, how did we get here? And, I learned about the American Revolution, where it started, and I learned about Nazi Germany because, when you're a kid, you're radical. You think things are bad. And, like, I was like, well, this is the worst it's going to get, right? So let's see where America compares to here. So I will say I've probably learned the most about Germany in the 20th century, but I certainly wouldn't say it's my favorite. One of the things I like about the American Revolution is, like, huge swaths of history are, like, not fun. Like, just not. Like, it's just, there's a lot of terrible things have happened in the past. A lot about the American Revolution is fun and uplifting. Of course, there are downers. People dying in the war. Slavery, not a fun thing, obviously. But there's a lot, like, specifically for me, it was the Declaration of Independence. Learning about the Declaration of Independence and, like, reading it. Like, actually reading the first 3 paragraphs. I know most of it's boring and it's just literally a list of complaints. But those first 3 paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence are, like, arguably, and in my opinion, like, the most important assessment of what it means to be a human and your relationship to your government ever written. and and a lot of people were fighting for that. And again, like, I know they didn't just like free the slaves, but like, it's not easy for me to say, but it wasn't, necessarily that easy. And I probably shouldn't get into that, but these were people who, they called it a necessary evil because they didn't know how to fix the problem. It sucks. Let's see. Can I talk about Thomas Hutchinson a little bit? Thomas Hutchinson was governor. Thomas Hutchinson was part of the Hutchinson family, and you want to talk about Chip? You want to know about a family rivalry? Hutchinsons were rivals with the Otis family, and their fathers were kind of at each other's throats. But then Hutchinson was at odds. Took a judicial position from the father of James Otis, who I think was also named James Otis, but I'm not sure. And like, when you hear Otis, the first name you probably think of is Mercy Otis Warren, who is his sister. He had some siblings who were also important, and Hutchinson took a job from his father, and then they had this rivalry, and then Hutchinson becomes royal governor and starts issuing writs of assistance. The writs of assistance was before he was governor, and so James Otis, who many people from Massachusetts point as the firebrand of the revolution. Like Sam Adams was kind of radicalized by James Otis, and then his cousin John Adams and their physician Joseph Warren were radicalized by Sam Adams after he was already following James Otis, who was one of the ones who called for the Stamp Act Congress. Unfortunately for James Otis, he is really radical, and he gets in a bar fight, more or less, and gets hit in the head, and then slowly loses his mental facilities and kind of disappears from the revolution. And actually gets struck by lightning. That's how he dies. So, and then Thomas Hutchinson, eventually, the writs of assistance I mentioned were basically warrants that said you can go into anyone's house and take whatever you want in the name of the king. And people were like, that's not cool. And Hutchinson was the royal governor of of Massachusetts when Lexington and Concord happened, when the war broke out. And he was the one replaced. No, whoa, that's wrong. I'm sorry. He was the one who was royal governor until Thomas Gage came over and took over. Thomas Hutchinson was in charge when the Boston Tea Party happened, and that's why they had to send Thomas Gage, and then Thomas Gage was in charge when they did the Lexington and Concord. Misfit, I think the name you're looking for is Patience Wright. She was a sculptor, among other artistries, and she went to she was a sculptor and had an early studio in Philadelphia. Then that burned down, and then she traveled a little bit. Now, I do believe she's the one she went to England during the war and allegedly put some secret notes for the Americans in some of her sculptings that she sent back. Allegedly. We could never really know if that was true. If you've seen the show Turn, there was a woman who takes that piece of paper with her feet and sends it back. But most of what they basically said there didn't happen. She wasn't a young, good-looking woman at that time. I'm sure she was a fine-looking woman, but she certainly wasn't as young as the person portraying her likeness in that show at that time. Probably not as she probably didn't associate with gentlemen in the same fashion they indicate on the show either. But really interesting. One of the first early artists in young America. Love Assassin's Creed? Yeah, it's fun. If you like Assassin's Creed, man, I know you're a little bit younger than I am, so check out Assassin's Creed number 3. It probably hasn't aged that great, although the Assassin's Creed games are super buggy, which is terrible. But that's the American Revolution one, and you can fight at Lexington and Concord and the Battle of Bunker Hill. Wait, I don't know if they have Bunker Hill. I don't recall, but have I read the book Fire in the Minds of Men? I have not. I'll pull it up though so I remember. By James H. Billington. Is it a... Origins of the Revolutionary Faith. Oh, interesting. Super cool. I will check that out. Thank you for the recommendation. Did I know Alexander Hamilton's mom owned slaves, but when she died, Alex and his brother James Hamilton were too young to inherit them, so they were sold elsewhere. I did not know that. Nothing about it surprises me. Because he would go on with his brother. He would, essentially run a business that probably traded slaves. Misfit. Strange interest in the Civil War, French Revolution, and Vikings. So, interesting. So, like, the French Revolution, I kind of just lump in with the American Revolution. I mean, when the French Revolution breaks out, Thomas Jefferson is there. Thomas Paine is there. William Short, who's often overlooked as one of Jefferson's disciples, was there. John Adams is in Great Britain. And then shortly thereafter, James Monroe comes around. Governor Morris is there. So American founders are literally there in France for the French Revolution. So obviously, from a European perspective, it's a different thing. Obviously, from a national perspective, different thing. But when you're talking researching the American Revolution, it's so entwined because the quasi-war with France, that's revolutionary France. That's Napoleon takes over, and that's who we're going to war. We make the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon, So, like I said, I've been learning a little bit more about Vikings. It was never my jam, especially playing this game I'm playing where I'm a Viking just coming in and taking what I want from the British. I feel bad for the people. I've never played a video game where I feel bad for the people I'm attacking. Civil War is fun. I never got too deep into the Civil War, especially now that I'm doing Founder of the Day. I have to actively not go too far into the future. There are people I read about, speaking of Napoleon, there's a woman I was researching, I was considering writing about, but it was hard to find her information, and she's a little late. She's born in 1802, I think. Her name was Annette Savage, and her nickname was Madame La Folie. And so one of Napoleon's brothers, his first name escapes me, but a brother of Napoleon, his older brother, who, when Napoleon takes over Europe, he named his brother King of Spain for 5 years, and then Napoleon gets taken away, and the King of Spain, whose last name is Napoleon, I think it's Louis Napoleon or something like that, he comes to New Jersey for 15 years, and so does Napoleon's younger brother, by the way. When Napoleon gets deposed, 2 of his brothers move to Jersey, and they both have children, and this one girl, Annette, see, the thing is, she that happens in 1817. Yes, it's under James Monroe, but I try and not do anything that really takes place around the time Lafayette comes back for his famous tour, or else I'd be stuck in the Civil War, not founders. There are people who really consider Abraham Lincoln an American founder, and I don't. He literally is the one who says 7 years ago, our fathers, he calls them founder. He doesn't, well, founders is a term I essentially am the only one who uses, but he essentially called them founding fathers, and it's and it was 80 years beforehand, so I don't know. Civil War and Vikings. Oh, don't get me wrong, I like learning about the Civil War. I have very particular opinions on it that people don't necessarily care for. Also, for example, next. Let's see. I could talk about it. Let me catch up to what you guys are saying here. Vietnam War. Vietnam War is a little modern for me. I've read a lot about World War I and World War II and everything, but I don't love the once the guns are and the bombs are too powerful and there's gases. It's I just can't. There's only so much I can stomach. So I was raised. I'm from a multi-religious household, and I was raised with a strong Jewish background. So I was desensitized to the Holocaust at a very young age, and it doesn't really bother me. I'm just kind of over it. I know that's literally the worst thing I can say, and I don't mean who cares. I mean I don't really want to learn more about it. I was in college, and they'd show clips of the Holocaust, and you'd see people leave the room because they were sick to their stomach, and I was I saw that when I was 4 years old. And yeah, it's not fun. For me, I understand why people like it. Like the warfare, I get it. Like, to each his own, for sure. Crusades are interesting. Yeah. They are. I don't. Again, not particularly my jam. Prudence Cummings White, who was nicknamed the Guardian of the Bridge. Oh, I thought you were talking about Patience Wright. Prudence. Oh wait, no, I don't want to lose fire in the minds of men. Let's open a new screen. Prudence Cummings White. A militia commander during the American Revolution. What? From Massachusetts. What? Well, look forward to that next week. Thank you very much, Misfit. I will certainly be checking that out. Rogue was fun. Rogue, or is that Liberation? That was the like one in old timey New Orleans. I don't remember. Yes, the American Revolution had a big impact on the French Revolution, John Adams, for sure. Well, one of the reasons of the French Revolution is the French were broke, and one of the major reasons France went broke is because they spent money on the American Revolution. Whoopsie daisy. I should be ashamed of myself for what? For taking stuff from non-playable characters? No, it's like they're trying to be Christians. Like I'm over here like praying to Thor and just taking your gold. Pardon me while I kill your family and take your gold. I probably shouldn't say that on YouTube, but like we're talking about a video game that people play on YouTube. Only once got attacked by a pack of bunnies. No, that sounds right. Do I listen to Ryan Dawson's channel? Civil War videos. No, I'll check them out. Ryan Dawson. I like learning about the Civil War. I didn't, when I said before, like, obviously I've read about it. I enjoy learning it. I always have enjoyed learning about it. I just try. I spend a lot more time on the American Revolution, pretty clearly. Looks like he's got a bunch of books. All right, I'll check it out. Very cool. Have you read Confederates in the Attic? I read it before class. People still act out battles from the Civil War. I read Confederates in the Attic like a while ago. I think like 15 years ago. Like it came out a long time ago, right? Am I thinking of the right book? In his thumbnail, Ryan Dawson has a Confederate flag in his thumbnail. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You saw my reaction. Like, okay, great. Like, I'm sure he does good work and everything. It's one of the reasons I don't like love the Civil War. Like what it like. See, I have a really weird point of views. Like we hear a lot of arguments, like people saying that the Civil War is fought for civil rights. Not civil rights, but fought for states' rights. But like, they're always saying that to defend the South was fighting for states' rights. But the truth is, in the 1850s, the federal government passed the Fugitive Slave Act. So Pennsylvania, which was right on the border of Virginia, had outlawed slavery 80 years beforehand. So now all of a sudden, the Fugitive Slave Act says, "Hey, if you're from Pennsylvania and you see a black person, go ask them for their papers. And if they don't have it, you need to grab that person and drag them however many miles to town and turn them in so they could be sent down to the South because there obviously should be a slave." So places like Pennsylvania and other states where people were basically kidnapping free people, Pennsylvania said, no, as a state, we've declared people are free, and we are not going to arrest people just because they can't prove they're not a slave. It's our state's rights to let people here be free people. And the federal government said no. So what did the North do? Well, they did what Americans do. They waited till the next election cycle, and they voted for someone named Abraham Lincoln, who said they thought would protect their state's rights of not just grabbing any black dude and throwing him in prison. And then how did the South respond? And I'm sorry if you're from the South, but threw a tantrum and committed treason by leaving the United States of America. Whatever reason you want to call it, that is what happened. The North waited patiently until they got their person elected, and the South did not. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, especially you, Chip. Like, you said you like this guy. I don't know anything about him. I'm sure he's a good historian. That's fine. But, like, that's why I don't study the Civil War all that often. Again, I really don't mean to offend anyone. That's just my interpretation of that period of history. In this channel, we focus on the other one. And actually, what time is it? Wow, we're at 2 hours. Okay, sweet. Well, you guys, yeah, this is great. We'll have to call it fairly soon. It's 10:30. Oh, but you guys got questions, and that's fine. Again, Chip, please. Yeah, okay, good. I don't mean to. Like, that is my interpretation of the lead up to the Civil War. Yeah. Oh, I thought you had mentioned. I thought you were one of the people who asked. Yeah. You asked me if I listened to his channel. Or is that a different person? Yeah, I hear you, Chip. That's the thing. And but not to get too on the topic, but like one of the things that kind of bugs me is like I can understand the argument for like the statues that people want to take down. I can definitely understand the argument for taking them down in the South because these people committed treason and lost a war. Like, why do you get a statue? Unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions nowadays about a lot of people kind of lump the Civil War and the American Revolution together. And like, yeah, revolutionaries had slaves, and that's terrible, obviously. But the American revolutionaries were trying to solve problems. That's what I love about the Declaration of Independence, is like they weren't like necessarily saying like this is what we're doing right now for everyone. They're saying this is like the goal. This is what we should be trying to do. And you look at people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, who like they inherited a world that their parents inherited from their parents. And that particular revolutionary generation did their best to remedy all of the problems, including the necessary evil, as they called it, of slavery. Because how were they supposed to get rid of it without destroying the entire economy? Again, I'm not defending it. I'm not trying to apologize for it. I'm just trying to rationalize it. Because you look at, Jefferson is his own beast. He is both the best and worst of what a human being can be. But you look at, like I said, like Massachusetts outlaws slavery, Pennsylvania outlaws slavery, New Hampshire makes moves in that direction. Never actually would outlaw it, but like the community naturally just kind of let it dissolve. What? There's a lot. Oh man, I'm missing stuff. Whoa, you guys got a lot of comments. This is great. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for hanging out. This is fun. The main religions of the Revolutionary War. Oh, you know what? I was supposed to. I said I would be doing a little bit more on that, and it's a greater religion is almost as tough as slavery to like really talk about. Yeah. Movie Glory. It has the actor from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Matthew Broderick. Yeah, a while ago. Am I jumping down too much? Okay, sorry. For me, it's 7:23. Oh, because you're in like the other part of America. What about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings? What do we think about that situation? Was it hypocritical or not? So the person to read is Annette Gordon-Reed, whose like research was so good that in the late 90s that they actually it convinced people to DNA test Thomas Jefferson's remains, and we were able to find out that he actually did have black children with Sally Hemings. So again, like I don't talk a lot about slavery on my channel. It's like I'm like torn because like first of all, it's not my story to tell, but like also I don't want to be a white dude who ignores it. So it's like really tough, especially because my understanding of it is so Sally Hemings was his slave, and if you have a child with a slave, then that is, I don't even want to use the word because I think I can get canceled, but the violent R word When you have relations with someone non-consensually, because if someone is a slave, they cannot consent. That's kind of the definition of slavery. They don't have the freedom to consent or not. So, get that clear. Now, furthermore, she was pretty young. Oh, and I lost someone. Sorry. Furthermore, she was pretty young. She was the same age as one of Jefferson's daughters. And the two grew up together, and she was essentially her servant. Oh, furthermore, she was Jefferson's wife's sister, half-sister. She was 3/4 white. Not that matters, but I say that because of her fairer skin and her relationship, she was his father-in-law's daughter. So because of that relationship, she was there in, not that R word. Sorry guys. There are certain words that YouTube will trigger and not let me say. So I'm trying to be cautious and cool to everyone. So she was related to Jefferson's wife, who passes away, grows up with his daughter, and then Jefferson goes to France. And then a few years later, while he's in France, eventually Sally Hemings and one of his daughters travel to France. I shouldn't. I will get to. I can't read and talk at the same time. So they travel to France together. While they're there, the French Revolution happens, and technically, black people are freed if you're in France. If you set foot on French soil, you are a free person. And this concerns Jefferson, not for Sally Hemings, but her brother. I believe it's Peter Hemings. What's his name? I am going to have to pull this up because I'm angry at myself for not remembering, because he ends up, Jefferson essentially pays for him to train as a chef in France. And when they go back to the United States, he becomes, is it Peter Hemings? It's not Peter. I'm pulling it up now. I want to get his name right. James, where'd Peter come from? James Hemings, when they return to the United States, he becomes the greatest chef in the young United States of America, because he trained in France and no one else has. But because they're free, and the French people going through the French Revolution probably would have let them know they were free, they didn't have to come back. Now, of course, being someone's slave your whole life, and when there's that, Stockholm syndrome kind of thing, where if your master tells you to return, you might listen even if you know you are actually free. But Sally Hemings does, again, the word choose is tough in this situation, but she does return to the United States with Thomas Jefferson. She was his sister-in-law, and they had known each other for decades, and then they started having children. So I don't want to put my opinion on there. I'm trying not to, but that is, those are the facts. You know what I mean? Video and audio of Confederate general on YouTube. It's interesting to hear how they spoke back then. Oh, really? That's cool. There's a thing on YouTube where a guy goes on a game show and it's like, guess what I did? And it's in the 1950s, and the guy witnessed the Lincoln assassination. Google game show host Lincoln assassination. It's really interesting because he was a young boy at the theater that night, and he lived 100 years. Tots, I don't have a dog in the front. My only contention with what you've said so far is that secession is built into this country's founding documents. So I understand the perspective that many people have that the South was not. I'm not sure what that last word is, but so I understand the argument that secession seems to be built in. I would disagree with you on that assessment, though. One of the many things that the Federalists pushing the Constitution were really about, and I know you're I'm not trying to be contradictory, but they were really about suppressing insurrection. This was a federal. I talk a lot about anti-federalists on this. I'm really interested in the anti-federalists. I want what you're saying to be true. But one of the major arguments from the anti-federalists was this is a national government. So make sure you come to the live video on next Wednesday, because just today I published the first review of the 16. Every Friday I do Anti-Federalist Fridays. I spent a year and a half doing Federalist Fridays, where I'd read and write about each Federalist paper for a year and a half. And now I'm doing Anti-Federalist Fridays, and I just started Brutus. I just published today the article I wrote on Brutus, which I'll be talking about next Wednesday. And Brutus is 16 articles that came out in New York City back and forth with the Federalist Papers. And he starts off saying, like, this is, sure, you're calling it a federal government, but it is so close to a national government that it is inevitable but to become that. And he was arguing that, like, secession isn't an option. And that's perhaps part of the problem. And then you run into the same thing with the nullification crisis under Andrew Jackson in the 1830s. I want to say 32, but again, that's a little out of my wheelhouse. Where again, like, South Carolina says they're going to secede, and they're like, no, you can't. Granted, obviously the Civil War happened. They did. But Lincoln's, really, my understanding, one of his main arguments for the war is that you couldn't. I guess that would be my first reaction to your comment. Again, this is fun. Like, I'm learning, like, I don't put myself out as an expert here. I put myself out as a student, and I'm learning, and I'm happy to learn along with you guys. And also, like I said, the Civil War isn't necessarily my wheelhouse. Thomas Jefferson's brother. Yeah, well, yeah. The slave has always become the slaver. Excuse me. Again, I don't really like to talk about modern politics. James Hemings committed. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part. James Hemings becomes like when they return to the United States, and Jefferson becomes Secretary of State. James Hemings is the best chef in the United States, unquestioned. And then he wants to be freed. So the deal Jefferson makes, he says when they're in France, listen, I know you're free here, but if you come back with us to the United States and then you train, because I spend so much money making you the best chef that in the United States, like, could you, like, pay me back by being my chef for a few years while you train someone else? And he trains someone else. All right, bye, John. Thank you for coming. Or Braden. And he does train. James actually trains his younger brother, who I think is Billy, but, like, obviously it's 10:30. I've been on way longer than I've ever made a video before at this point, so my mind is eluding me a little bit. But he spends about 2 years training his brother how to be the second best chef in the United States. And then when his brother can cook up to Thomas Jefferson's expectations, that's when James Heming is freed. And unfortunately for James, he travels around a little bit. He disappears for a little while. There's an argument to be made that he may have actually gone back to France for a bit, but, like, in France he wasn't even close to the best chef. Comes back to the United States, apparently takes to the drink, and ends up in Baltimore. And while he's in Baltimore, he apparently kills himself. It's nothing was, when they passed this news around, they weren't very specific on how, at least not that I've seen. So it is a really tragic ending. And unfortunately, a lot of people at this point were like, when the revolution was happening, most people were like, okay, how do we stop slavery? But Eli Whitney invents the cotton gin during the George Washington administration. So by the time Jefferson becomes president, and by the time James Heming dies, suddenly slavery, which they thought slavery was going to just dissipate, as it did, as I mentioned, in New Hampshire. They thought it was just going to stop. It was quickly becoming not profitable and troublesome. And that's why in the Constitution they said after 20 years we can't import slaves. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess depends who you are, but once the cotton gin is invented, well, things totally change for slavery, and people's attitudes start changing to slavery. And people who were saying that, black people couldn't handle living a free life, they would point at James Hemings and say, look, he was given the best culinary education of anyone in the United States, and he was set free, and he ends up becoming a drunk and killing himself. Granted, most other people would argue, well, you can look at like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where there's a growing community of African American people who are doing just fine, which would have been my argument, I hope. I saw that. He won $100 for being on the show because he didn't... Yeah, exactly. The game show guy who saw this says, Samuel J. Seymour. Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. John Hemmings, another brother, trained in the Monticello joinery and became a highly skilled carpenter and woodworker. He made a lot of furniture and fine work. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So the Hemmingses were inherited by Jefferson when he got married. And again, they were his sister's siblings. They were half. Is it half when it's your father? You share a father. Is it half? And step is the mother. I forget exactly how it works. But like, again, I only pay attention to the American Revolution. But yeah, so like, they came over. Like, I hate talking about slavery because I don't want to ever sound like an apologist. Like, that is the furthest thing from my mind. But see, like, I can't even say, I don't even want to say but. Like, depending on the actual tone of someone's skin, depend on the opportunities they had. Many people who were related to their owners generally had fairer skin, and therefore were given more appealing work, or at least work you could be more successful at. Many slaves who did jobs like joinery or chef, no, I guess not chef necessarily. Most slaves did not have the opportunity to be chef. But people who did manual labor would often be rented out by their owners, and in some instances, especially leading into and during the American Revolutionary War, where this talk of freedom, like, many of the plantation owners took it seriously too. Like, there's a reason George Washington manumits his slaves. You know, like, he didn't really have any heirs who he would be screwing, like most of the other American founders would do if they manumitted their slaves, like really, like, putting into debt for their life, which, like, that's why it was a necessary evil. It's like, do you want your kids, like, do you want to ruin your kids' lives to liberate the slaves? You know, I know what answer I'd like to say I would do, but you know, it's hard to put yourself in their position. John Hemmings. Yeah. Oh, so, but either way, some slaves were rented out and did have the opportunity to make a little bit of money on the side and even buy their own freedom. Now, again, you see this happening more in the North than the South, of course, but yeah. Uncle Tom's Cabin also held slow emancipation. Well, yeah. Uncle Tom's Cabin radicalized a lot of people. With good reason. At that point, radical was the only way to go to eliminate slavery, because even what Lincoln wanted to do for slaves was what they were doing in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania and New York State. You know, like, take New York for example. They finally passed a law outlawing slavery in New York State in 1799, and they said slavery will be outlawed in 1827, I believe the year was. So it was 28 years. They said anyone born after today is born free. And anyone who's a slave today, who's still alive in 28 years, will be free then. And the idea was that to take people who, like, had never been given the opportunity to be given an education, who, like, many couldn't read, you know, most of them could do certain jobs, but they really thought it would not be fair to just say, okay, you're free now, get out. Like, figure it out. They genuinely wanted to help liberate people in the best way they could. You know, now, again, whether or not that is the actual best way, not for me to decide. But that's what they thought they were attempting to do, especially in New York and in many other places. And that's really what Lincoln wanted to do when he took office. He didn't want to just free all the slaves. He wanted to gradually emancipate, especially if you're doing the entire South at that point, but to give them the opportunity to grow and not grow, but succeed as free people. I may have addressed this. Forgive me. I have heard some people argue that the revolution was fought over the right to keep slavery since England outlawed it already. No, that is the 1619 project, and it is riddled with errors. And while I understand their goals to demonstrate that black people have always been a part of American society, and they certainly have, I think framing it as the reason for the revolution was to keep slaves is ridiculous, because as I said, why did Massachusetts outlaw it during the war? Why did Pennsylvania outlaw slavery during the war? Why did New York outlaw slavery a decade later, or 15 years later? You know, like, it's like objectively wrong. Like, why did they write in the Constitution that they would stop importing slaves? Well, I guess the argument to that is so they could make money off the ones they had, but no. That's wrong. They went to all the states, all the colonies, went to war with England for many, many, many reasons. Many, many, many reasons. As they say in the Declaration of Independence, governments long established shall not be removed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably that same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government. No, it wasn't just, they're going to take away our slaves. Because that's not even true. Like, the name of the court case eludes me. And, okay, there was a court case in Britain that essentially freed slaves in England. Not Britain. Not Great Britain. England. There were some people concerned with how that might be implemented in the United States, and that it might be rushed. Again, these were people who cared about gradual emancipation. They thought, now, there were people who were afraid that, like, you know, of black people being freed and being dangerous at night. But for the most part, they were concerned about uneducated people being freed and being dangerous at night. And that's why the argument for gradual emancipation. But no, like, that's... no. That's not. That's not true. Was there a document treaty with England that said blacks that fought for England would be freed after the war? Yeah. So, it wasn't a treaty. It was that they announced, they proclaimed. There was a proclamation that if slaves would leave their masters and fight for England, then they would be given their freedom. And many did, and a large part of that was kept. But remember how we were saying, oh, England freed slaves, now they're going to free them here? No, many were sent back to slavery because part of the deal meant loyalists got to keep their property and patriots got their property back. And that's what slaves were in the eyes of many people. Interestingly, so George Washington gets to Boston, right? In 1775, war breaks out. Down in Philadelphia, Continental Congress needs to choose a leader, and Washington's there, and they choose him. He goes and takes over the army, and he removes all black people from service because he's afraid that all these, we need help from the South. They're going to send their militias, and they're not going to want to serve with black people because slavery was viewed much differently in the South than it was in the North. You know, in the South, you have the plantations that you see later in the Civil War. In the North, you had some people owned a significant amount of slaves, but generally it was one or two slaves to a household, and they were treated as a family member. You know, you'd work together in your field at a time where 90% of humans were small farmers. You owned a slave, like, they slept in your house, and you got up in the morning together and ate breakfast, and then you went out to the field, and slaves were treated like women were, which was like a child. Again, not me, not happy about this in any fashion. That is just simply how it went down. So George Washington takes over the Continental Army and tells black people, no, you have to get out because the South's coming. And we need all these white dudes because there's a lot more white dudes in militia coming from the South than there are black people in the North who are serving with the Continental Army. And then Britain proclaims that they're going to free any slaves that run to their lines and fight with them. And Washington quickly changes his mind and decides that free black people can fight with the Continental Army. And that's when the first inklings of maybe we can offer the same thing starts to arise. Doesn't right away, and only ever happens in a few select places. But interesting, I made a video not too long ago about Salem Poor, who was affected by this. He was a free black man who was a slave, and he had worked on the side, saved up money, paid off his own cost, and became a free person, went and fought with the Continental Army. George Washington shows up, he kicks him out, and then they desegregate the Continental Army, and he comes back and fights. Again, it was very different in the North and the South, and it wasn't exactly the same as, not itinerant, but indentured servants were very common, especially in the North at the time, where people from European descent would sell themselves into slavery for a certain amount of years. But some people were able to buy their way out earlier. And it was fairly commonplace. Not commonplace, but not, not shocking in any fashion. Hercules Posey, Washington's chef, was awesome. He ran a tight ship and spoke his mind to Washington, and Washington respected him, if I remember correctly. I don't know a ton about Hercules Posey, but yeah, obviously most of the plantation owners did have one chef who they owned. Tina, I really don't have a great memory. I just read. I just slam my keyboard when I'm making a point. I just read a lot and research a lot. It's one of the reasons I do what I do. Is deciding to publish an article. It was originally 7 days a week. Last March, after 2 full years, I cut it down to only 5 days a week. Excuse me. One of the reasons is to force myself to keep researching, and you do enough, it gets in the back of your mind. Weren't there entirely black regiments with Native Americans commanding officers fighting for... Were there entirely black regiments with Native American commanders fighting for England? I spend most of my time researching the American side, which I know is a cop-out to this question. I don't remember for certain. If memory serves, yes. I do believe there was at least one that was an all-black unit, but the Native American took over. They put them under command of a friendly Native Americans, because a lot of the Native Americans sided with the British, because they were afraid of the colonists. The colonists were encroaching on land. One of the reasons many of the, especially southern states, colonies, decided to fight in the Revolution is the Proclamation Line of 1863. There's the French and Indian War, and the British win and take over Canada. And the Native Americans, they basically say to the Native Americans, listen, you stay on this side of the line, and we'll keep our colonists on this side. But you have all these, George Washington was a surveyor most of his career, and he was surveying the Ohio Valley, which is parts of Ohio and Indiana and Kentucky and Tennessee, and they wanted this land because they wanted to make money selling it and cultivating it. And suddenly, they fight in this French and Indian War, and then the king says, nope, can't go to that land, and they were, unhappy about that. But the Native Americans saw that the king was trying to give them a little bit of space. And that's why when the Americans said, we're going to fight the king, the Native Americans said, well, we're going to fight with the king. To a large degree. You bring up the Iroquois, for example. I'm in upstate New York, so I'm, on the dividing line, because out of the 6 nations of the Iroquois that were in the Confederacy when the Revolution breaks out, 2 of them do side with the Americans. The Tuscarora and Oneida side with the rebels. And actually, technically that becomes a civil war. Big shout out to Liberty & Co. I just saw it pop up. Sponsors. Who won? Amber. Amber won. She said she wanted a magnet, right? No, I'll contact her later. It's okay. Either way. So, you know what, guys? We're at 2.5 hours right now, and this is a significantly longer than any video I've ever shot. I love that you guys are here asking questions. I really do. But it's almost 11 o'clock, and technically this is my bedroom, and I have a spouse downstairs who's probably wants to go to sleep. So I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to thank you generously for giving me your time. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate that you guys spent all this time with me. But 12 o'clock on Sunday, 12 noon at 12 noon on Sunday, I'm going to do a live video, and we are going to I will take, just ask me anything, do whatever questions. I hope that you guys want to bring some founders. If you have founders you want to learn about, come at me. I'm just going to go live and see who hangs out and see what happens. So thank you so much. Misfit. Misfit, you won, right? So you said a magnet, and you're in New Jersey. I'll send it. But no, I've not seen that particular miniseries, I don't think. Thank you, Chip. Dude, it was really fun talking to you. I hope I didn't offend you with, like, my hot takes on the Civil War are, like, hot takes. It's not like I study the American Revolution. Trust me on the American Revolution. The Civil War is my thing. Tina, Chip, John, if you're still there, Misfit, you guys are amazing people, and I really, truly appreciate you with all my heart. So I am going to end this video. It'll get dark for a second because I got to find YouTube. Where is it? There it is. And we end these videos with Peacefield, right? Because a long story I'll explain another time. But John Adams' home. So, Peacefield.